Welcome back to KLM. We're going to take a pause in the Easy Mitzvah series and see what we can do to relate to this tragedy that happened that we're all still, I think it's fair to say, shell-shocked from. And I was thinking about how to approach this, and let me open with this. You know, when tragedy strikes, it brings out good in people, you know, and there's been a response of compassion for the people, all these families who've lost their loved ones, and there's young people, and I know personally that some of the boys that left this world were tremendously pure and beautiful people, and everyone wants to help. And it's actually been amazing. What I heard in Meron, there was an outreach from all groups, and you know, it's ironic because there's so much Jewish unity at Meron, and for this to happen, very, very painful. But like I said, we all want to help, and there's been beautiful. I saw one of the airlines offered to fly the parents for free, and you know, everybody, what can we do to help? And every bit of it is meaningful. Now, with Judaism, Shem, the Torah gives us really, really powerful ways to help, okay, and to contribute to the situation. So tonight, I want to give you a very meaningful way to respond that I believe is going to help those families that are in desperate need of consolation. It's going to help the ones who pass from this world, and to help the Jewish people. It'll help the Jewish people, and if it helps the Jewish people, it helps all mankind. Okay? We want to do that, obviously, right? And as an extra bonus, I hope this approach we're going to take is going to build your self-esteem too, okay? You'll understand in a minute. Okay. So the Gemara, it makes it clear that really, if you wanted to trace back all tragedy, the most basic cause is because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, we don't have a temple, and because when we did, the temple was the conduit of blessing and good to all of mankind, and once that stopped, trouble. And the Gemara says, amazingly, it says, with the passage of time from the Beis Hamikdash, every day Hashem Yerachem has more curse than the other. And in a certain sense, I think we saw this, what we went through with Corona and all that, and then this happens, right? So ultimately, it's because Hashem's presence is not here the way it could be, and please God will be, okay? And the Chafetz Chaim explains that really, the second temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. And he says, how does baseless hatred, how does negativity manifest? In speech. Negative speech. Speech kills. That's also Mishlei. The tongue can either kill or bring life, right? So, the truth of the matter is, if we can make an advance, like, again, people are saying it's time, let's do tshuva, let's come back to Hashem. If we can advance ourselves with guarding our tongues, that's huge. And like I said, Hashem will bring, He so much wants us to care about speaking negatively about our family members, and of course He's going to console the people. And let's take this loss of these holy people, and if we improve as a result, as their stimulus, that elevates their souls. Okay, so this is just only good to improve. Now, when it comes to Loshon Harah, there's been amazing efforts and disseminations and teachings and books, and the Chafetz Chaim Foundation, amazing efforts, right? And so I hopped upon an approach that actually I saw really help people. Many people know that if you're a Torah observant Jew, you know Is it okay to speak Lashon Hara? No, it's forbidden. Okay, now of course there's a qualification if you have constructive purpose. We're not going to talk about that tonight, okay? But everyone knows it's forbidden, right? Yet, what is it that causes us to still stumble and fall and, justify our behavior, etc.? So, that's what I want to work on. So here's the secret we're going to approach. See, here's the thing. To do positive actions, let's say you want to do a haftarecha kamocha, right? So when you make someone feel good, you smile at them, you give them a compliment, it's an action. You could say, I'm going to smile 3 times a day, with all the mitzvahs involved with that, right? That's due. But, when it comes to not doing a negative, and it's a habit sometimes, we get, someone presses our button and we get negative and boom, before you know it's over. How do you guard against that? That's not easy. That's much more difficult to be prepared, ready, and not stumble into a negative, right? Here's the secret we're going to do. The Chafetz Chaim Foundation put out, it boiled down all the laws. Now, of course, it is very important to learn all the laws, okay, and go through the Chafetz Chaim Sefer. However, they did us a chesed. They boiled all the rules of Lashon Hara to 10 basic rules. And I tell you, if you have these rules at your fingertips, it's going to improve your speech. I'm telling you from testimonies of people that I did this process with. I'm testifying myself. It helps a lot, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to just get these 10 rules down. And I promised you that it's going to be a boost to our self-esteem. Why is that? This is something, especially, when it comes to learning Torah, there's a premium placed on learning Torah deeply, Iyun Torah, right? And there should be, because the Torah is from Hashem, it's divine. So you should be delving into its depths for sure. However, sometimes that takes a long time before you taste the fruits of it. But a way you can feel fruits? When you attain, but ready, and retain Torah knowledge. It feels great. To have some information at your fingertips that you remember and know, it's an automatic good feeling, and it feels great with your neshama, etc. You hear this? Retaining builds your self-esteem. So my goal is to do this. We're going to try to get these 10 rules down. I'm going to explain them, and I'm going to teach you a process that I found very effective. Now, if you're watching, if you could pause the camera and try to get a partner, it works very well with a partner, okay? But if not, I'm going to try to take us through this process. And please God, we're going to emerge with the 10 rules in our consciousness. This is an interesting thing. Let me lift this up for, right? Tzitzis, right? What's the purpose of tzitzis? So tzitzis is we're supposed to look at them and what? It's supposed to remind us of the mitzvahs, right? It's a triggering mechanism. And men have more mitzvahs, so they need these, look, there's 613, etc. So anyhow, it's supposed to, you look at this, and then you remember the mitzvahs, and then you do them, okay? Now, the Chafetz Chaim brings this in the Mishnah Berurah. If you don't know the mitzvahs, what's this going to do, right? You remember the mitzvahs. What are the mitzvahs, right? So here, with the rules of Lashon Hara, there's certain points that you really have to get down, and you need to remember them in order to be safeguarded and do them, right? So right now, we're going to go through this list, and it's actually a fun list, if you will, and we're going to, please God, with the help of Shen, we're going to retain it, we're going to feel great about ourselves, and most importantly, we're going to contribute to diminish the major cause of the suffering in the world, which is not having a Beis Hamikdash, which Hashem says, I'm not budging until you remove negativity from each other and stop speaking negatively. So let's make a major stride on this right now. Okay, before we look at this list of the 10 basic rules of proper speech, I want to talk to you a little bit about retention. And the first time I had a profound success with retention, I heard a presentation by Rabbi Noah Weinberg Zetzal years ago. and he changed the Jewish world. Well, his father changed his life. How? He says when he was around 5 or 6 years old, his father offered him, now this is in the 1950s, something like that, 40s, he offered him a nickel for every Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that he would memorize. Now I'm not offering you a nickel, but the thing is this, what did Rabbi Weinberg say? He says, I memorized Pirkei Avos and it changed my life. So when I heard that, I was very inspired by that. And I was in the United States, and every Shabbos I had a friend, a good friend, and on Shabbos, the first Shabbos, I mentioned the first Pirkei Avos. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai and handed it to Yeshua to the elders, etc. And then Hashem gave me a great idea. The next Shabbos, what did I do? I repeated the first Mishnah. Moshe handed it from Sinai, and then I went to the second Mishnah. Shimon HaTzadik was a member of the Anshe Knesset Gedola, and then every Shabbos I repeated from the beginning and added one, and it changed my life. It worked beautifully, and to know Pirkei Avos is life-changing, okay? So this simple idea of repeating what you know, and continuing to repeat it till it's in your kishkas, right? That's a secret, and again, it's like an immediate good feedback. It's a wonderful process to do, and that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to give you a brief explanation of the 10 rules, but I'm not going to go through the 10 rules and then let's go back. We're going to get it down and do this process one by one till we have it, okay? So that's the plan. So these are 10 easy rules to memorize, right? Because we need this in our consciousness, because when negative feelings arise, we have to think. It has to rise to our mind. Wait a minute, maybe that's Loshon Harah. Okay? So 10 easy rules to memorize. So here's the basic format. Don't say it when, and we'll see the 10 things. You ready to go? Let's do it. And everybody, if you have a partner, you can go over with them, or just, we'll pause, we'll make sure you have it, and we'll move on. First, don't say it when it's derogatory, even if it's true. Now what's brilliant about this list is it brings up all the rational lies we tell ourselves. I hear this all the time, but it's true. He really did that. And you have to say, so what? If it's derogatory, if it makes the person that you're talking about, if his image lowers in the mind of the listener, it's Loshon Harah. So if it's derogatory, even if it's true, it's forbidden. Don't say it. Okay? So, what's the first rule of the laws of Loshon Harah? If it's derogatory. Even if it's true. That's a bonus if you remember that rationalization. It's very wise what they're doing. Okay? So everyone, what's the first one? If it's derogatory. Okay, let's go to the second one. If it's damaging, even if it's not derogatory. This is, let's say a person says, I saw your wife in the store and she has such good taste when she buys every item in the store. I mean, she is such a good shopper, right? So in your mind, you didn't say anything negative, right? She has good taste, right? But to the listener, that could cause him to be upset with his wife, and you might have caused the wife the damage, right? So you have to be careful that even a positive statement doesn't lead to damage. Okay? So if it's damaging, even if it's not derogatory, do you hear? Be on guard. Okay? Let's review. What's the first rule?
Even if it's derogatory, even if it's true.
Right. If it's derogatory, even if it's true. Okay? And what's the second rule?
Second rule is it is a good word, but make the listeners think it
cause damage. Very good. Yeah. Even if it's good words, but if it's damaging in some way, so you have to think twice before you say even something positive. Okay, good. We have 2 of the rules down. If it's derogatory, or if it's damaging. Okay, let's go to the third one, and here's another classic that we we must get this in our consciousness. Don't say it even if it was just a joke. I was just kidding. I was just joking around. And this is really important. People will make a joke and I'm just teasing, right? But if what you're saying again is a little bit embarrassing or negative or might affect the thing, it doesn't matter that you're well-intentioned. So even if it's a joke, okay? So let's go over, all right? So far we have 3. What's the first one? It's derogatory. What's the second one? Damaging, even if it's positive. And the third one?
Even if it's a joke.
Even if it's a joke. Okay? I'm telling you, if we go through this, you're going to think about this when you leave this room. Okay. So let's go to the 4th one. Here's another thing you might think you can get away with. Even when you include yourself. Okay? Well, I was there too, and I was, throwing rocks or whatever it was, God forbid, right? So when you do that, you don't help the case. When you spoke negative about this other young man who threw rocks at the window or whatever it was, you can say, but I did it too. That doesn't help. If it was negative, even if you include yourself, it's unacceptable. Okay? Let's review. By the way, this immediate retention also, if I don't tell you, but if you generate it yourself. So for those who are listening, I'm going to pause and give you a chance to produce. Okay? What's the first one? Derogatory. Right, even if it's true. Mm-hmm. What's the second one? Damaging, even if it's positive. What's the third one? Jokes, even if they're well-intentioned. And what's the fourth one?
Including ourselves.
Right, even if we include ourselves in the negative information. Here's something I've learned by working with people in retention. You might think the easiest thing to remember is the last thing you heard, but it's not true. It's what was repeated the most, okay? But anyhow, doing great. We're almost halfway there, okay? The fifth, even when you say it non-verbally. This is, in our times, this is the biggest perhaps. Internet Harah. In other words, when you write, or you go like that, you make a face, or you write, or you signal, non-verbal is forbidden.
Rolling eyes,
winking, rolling eyes, and I want to say writing texts and emails. We have to be so careful. Okay, you hear this? So it's not only said verbally; it could be said by non-verbal expressions. Okay, so we just covered 5. Let's review. Okay, the first one, even when it's derogatory, even if it's true. Second, damaging. Right. Even if it's positive. Third.
It was only a joke.
Yeah, jokes. Jokes that are okay. Fourth.
Including
yourself. Even if you include yourself, you can't write off that you spoke negative about someone else because you mentioned yourself too. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the fifth one?
Even says not verbally.
Not verbal, right. So writing, texts, emails, winking, smiling, faces, all that, okay? So we now know half of the most foundational principles of Loshon Harah, okay? We're halfway there. So again, if it's derogatory, if it's damaging, even if it's a joke, even if you include yourself, and nonverbal as well. Okay, let's go look at the other list. Okay, we now know half of the 5 foundational principles, rules of proper speech. Okay, so let's go to the next 5. Okay. Even when it's about communities or kids. Now let me pause on this. This is important. Again, remember jokes in the first list. Jokes you may not mean, you may not feel negative towards an Ashkenazi, a Sephardi, a Chassid, a non-Jew, whatever. You may not, even if you're, but a joke that's negative is forbidden. In other words, you can't criticize communities. In fact, it's a bigger issue. Yeah, so we have to be so careful, so careful to talk about groups of Jews, shuls, anything. Careful. And then another one, this number 6 is key. Communities, careful. Kids, even if a kid's not bar mitzvah, you cannot speak negatively about them. Of course we have, and the next time we work on this, we'll talk about when there's constructive purpose. It could be there's constructive purpose to talk about, to your spouse about one of the kids and stuff like this. But there's rules for that. But anyhow, what I want to say is careful. This is a big one. You shouldn't speak negatively about kids either. Okay? As Rabbi Berkowitz says so beautifully, the whole rule, the underlying rule is it's lowly. It's lowly to speak about other people negatively. And we're meant to be holy, not lowly. Okay? Great. So, what's number 6? What?
Number 6 is speak about community and kids.
Right. Okay, good. So, let's go back to the beginning. All right? Every repetition, by the way, I want to point out to all of us, we're learning Torah. And every word of Torah is a mitzvah. So please also have in mind, I'm learning Torah. And I'm learning Torah al manas la'asot. I'm learning to be careful about my speech. And if you teach other people, do this exercise with others, you're learning in order to teach. And you get so much from doing that, okay? So that's my justification. We're going over all 6, okay? First one, when it's derogatory. Second, damaging. Third, jokes. Fourth, includes yourself. Fifth, what's the 5th? Excuse me, 5.
Nonverbal.
Nonverbal. Okay. 6th,
Whole groups of people, communities or kids.
communities or kids. Great, Rabbi. Okay. This is another, they really know how to press our buttons with this list. This is a classic risk, high risk. Even when you tell it to close relatives, there's this feeling that, well, I can share negative things with my wife or my husband. I'm so close to them. It's part of our closeness. Now, let me qualify on this. It's very important, and I'm not giving a detailed class, and you need to learn and speak to your local rabbi about these things for sure, but there is a thing that if the spouse is really upset, and they need to vent. So the halacha permits you to them to vent, but they should say, "I need to vent," and don't take what I'm saying so serious. Don't believe it, etc. But my point is this: so I'm not saying it can never occur, but much of the time, even when you're speaking to a close relative, it's forbidden. Don't share it even with people you're close. They're mentioning this because we have a temptation to share with our close ones everything, even the negative. Don't do it unless it's constructive. Okay, that's 7. We're almost done with the list. So, derogatory, damaging. See, everyone, I hope you'll repeat repeat these, okay? Derogatory, damaging, jokes, including yourself, nonverbal. What's 6? Because we only did it recently. Communities or kids. And the 7th one?
Speak to relatives.
You can't speak to relatives. Even people you're close to, no spouse, you cannot if it's not constructive. Okay, 3 more and we're done. Here's another one you might think is okay. Everyone knows about it. So in this list of the Havatayim Foundation is that even if the listener already heard something and it's already kind of known. Now, what's the problem? They explain part of the problem is you're reinforcing negativity, right? And when you hear another person say it, it's entrenching that, and it's lowly, not holy, okay? So Even if it's well known or the person has heard something about it, it's forbidden. Okay, that's number 8. Okay. Derogatory, damaging, jokes, even self. 5. Nonverbal. 6. What's 6?
Community and
Kids. 7.
Even close relatives.
Even close relatives. 8.
Already known.
It's already known. Even people already heard about it. You still can't say it to another if it's negative. Okay? That's 8. 2 more. These last 2 rules are kind of a little twist on things and very important. Okay? It's called rechilus. Rechilus is translated as tail-bearing when it causes animosity. Okay? In other words, if you didn't say something negative, but you say, do you know what Plony said about you? Right? So you're not saying that Plony says you're not generous, right? Now did you say he's not generous? You didn't say that. You told him Plony did. That's called rechilus. It causes animosity and it's bad news, okay? So the 9th one is rechilus is forbidden, meaning even if you don't say it, but you report something negative someone said and cause animosity. So it's forbidden if it's rechilus/animosity. That's 9. Okay, let's review. First
is derogatory.
Derogatory. Damaging. Jokes.
Even if you include yourself.
Even include yourself.
5th is
non-verbal. Good. 6.
Groups of people such as communities or kids.
Communities, kids, beautiful. 7. Relatives. You can't share to relatives. 8.
Even if it's publicized and already known.
Right. Publicized and known. 9.
9. I didn't hear.
Okay, so 9 is a category where you don't say the negative, but you say to somebody, he said negative about you. That's called rechilus. In other words, if you're causing negativity between 2 people, animosity, rechilus. Okay. Last and definitely not least, this could be the hardest one on the list. Okay. In all these cases, if you're on the listening end, you can't believe what you're hearing. When someone speaks negatively, don't believe it, and really, ideally, says the Hafazin, don't listen. Don't listen in the first place, right? But ready? Believing negative information said, believing Loshon Harah, or listening to it is forbidden. Okay? Now, I say that that's the toughest. Why? If you're speaking and you're all riled up, you might kind of recognize maybe I'm not acting properly. But when you're just listening, it's such a, in quotes, passive activity. You're just, and the problem is, we're very perceptive and insightful people. So you hear people say things and they sound so correct. But if they're negative, you have to say, these people are biased, they're distorting it. Listening and accepting is forbidden, and be on your guard. That's one we can really fall prey to, because I'm not doing anything, I'm just listening. Okay? Don't do it. Okay? That's number 10. Listening and believing Loshon Harah is forbidden. Okay. Let's go over, we'll go over the list one more time. And here's a point about the retention. But look, you now know, wait here, let's do this and then I'll talk about the fruits. Okay. Let's do the work first. Okay. One more time. Number 1 is derogatory. Number 2?
Number 2 is damaging words.
Damaging words, right. Number 3?
Even if it's only a joke.
Right. Beautiful. Jokes are not okay.
Number 4 involves ourselves.
Right. Even if it involves herself, it doesn't justify speaking negatively about the other 5.
Even if it's only nonverbal.
Nonverbal writings, texting, etc. 6?
6 is speak about community and kids.
Right. It's forbidden to speak about communities or children. 7.
Even if you're relating it to close relatives.
You're relating it to close relatives, your loved one, spouse, can't do that. Okay. 8.
8. I didn't hear very clearly, and
okay. So even if it's well known,
yeah.
okay, if it's already, even if you think they may have heard it, so it's okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's well known.
Good. 9.
If it draws animosity or bad feelings towards the person.
Right.
Between two people.
Right. You create animosity between two people, even though you didn't speak Loshon Harah, but you told them they spoke negatively. That's called rechilas, and it's bad news. Okay. And the last one.
The last one is forbidden to believe and hearing.
Yeah, and even hearing or listening to Loshon Harah. Okay. First of all, Yesher Koach, okay? You now know 10 fundamental principles by heart, okay? And the by heart is the secret. Do this, right? You have to realize you know important knowledge, and you know Torah knowledge, and you know knowledge that can break the pattern of habitual negativity. It's really good. It'll come in, wait a minute, oh, you're about to make a joke, you say, oh, wait a minute, I said jokes was on the list, right? And I just want to finish with this, is that the Vilna Gaon brings a midrash, and he says, just think about this, you know, there are people that have photographic memories and geniuses in numbers and things, and you have computers, right, that can hold and calculate the great deals. But you know a better calculator or a better computer is an angel. An angel is pure intellect, and the Rambam explains angels are so much greater in their ability to comprehend things, right? Listen to this. Says the Vilna Gaon, if one time, right, and the Havetz Chaim said it's worth the whole book he wrote, because this, if one time you thought about speaking Loshon Harah and you stopped yourself, he says the reward that's waiting for you, the closeness to God that's waiting for you, angels cannot calculate it. It's incalculable. They can't do the math. Do you hear this? It's such a big thing. It's such a big thing. And we should have in mind, right, that we're guarding our speech primarily because Hashem told us to. But we should offer it as a prayer of action to Hashem. Hashem, please, may our efforts to retain and then refrain, right, from speaking negatively, may they provide an aliyas neshama for these holy people that left us. May you bring consolation to their families. May you bring simchas, and most importantly, the redemption. We want to show you, we want to stop the things that get in the way of you coming back. V'imher v'yameinu.